Lastly, but certainly not least, as we ring out in the refrain that is said among people across the world and Puerto Ricans across the world, yo sí soy boricua.
Giant robotic tripods could be vaporizing New Jersey. Democrats would point out how the death lasers were disproportionately affecting low-income communities and people of color, and AOC would tweet, "Stop demonizing the Martian X community."
What? When Bill Maher decides to dissect AOC's speeches like an over-caffeinated high school English teacher, you get a mix of comedy gold and harsh reality checks, as tonight he's not just calling her out, but tearing apart every hope, dream, and buzzword she clings to, revealing that it's less about policy vision and more like word salad with extra dressing. So stick around, because Maher is about to show why listening to AOC talk politics feels like karaoke.
What do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election.
If you're enjoying this, please subscribe to the channel, because it helps more than you think. And apparently the Democratic Party is at it again. Like watching someone who keeps burning their hand on the same stove only to return thinking this time will be different. Starting with Clay Harris in 2024 and that masterclass in enthusiasm-free campaigning, while Bill Maher was waving red flags back then, practically screaming, "This is a bad idea."
The country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid. Language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
But no, the party shoved Harris down everyone's throat like cold oatmeal, and we all know how that ended. 4 years of word salad speeches and awkward cackles that made half the country mute their televisions. And now, because the DNC seems to collect bad decisions like Pokemon cards, the new shiny thing is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is.
Yes, the TikTok darling of progressives, the queen of social media likes, the congresswoman who can turn a sentence into a verbal car crash faster than a rookie driver at Daytona. AOC is being promoted as the Democratic star for 2028. But Maher isn't buying the hype for a single second, having been around long enough to spot a political mirage and practically begging Democrats not to wander into another electoral desert chasing this illusion.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
The funny part is the pattern is so obvious. Every time a young politician draws a big crowd, the left treats it like the second coming, getting hypnotized by Instagram posts, TikTok edits, and endless applause at rallies, forgetting that none of it matters if you can't actually win an election. And Maher pointed this out with his usual smirk, noting that Democrats are obsessed with who looks exciting on stage rather than who can actually drag voters to the polls, which is the classic Coachella politics problem. Sure, Bernie might get cheers at a music festival, but that doesn't mean the country is about to elect him president, and here's where AOC's hype train starts wobbling. Because the moment people stop swooning over her Instagram live sessions and start listening to what she actually says, the cracks become impossible to ignore, as she doesn't just misspeak occasionally, but detonates her credibility on live television. 1 minute explaining unemployment by saying people work too many jobs. The next trying to reinvent economics, as if she just discovered supply and demand in a BuzzFeed quiz, making it feel like watching someone play chess while confusing the pieces with checkers.
What do you think of the fact that the people who are getting the big crowds right now are AOC and Bernie Sanders? They're going around the country. Thank you, there's that same guy. I call him the always wrong guy. No, I'm kidding. Okay, but I feel like, big crowds, again, the shiny object that the Democrats chase it's not about the big crowds that come out to you when you're talking in a festival or wherever they are. I think it's because I think Bernie showed up at Coachella. That must have been fun for the fans.
That must have been fun for the fans, and Maher's frustration is obvious because beneath all the firebrand speeches and flashy sound bites, there's nothing of substance, just aggression dressed up as leadership and volume disguised as vision, theatrics instead of strategy, as she seems more focused on delivering clapback moments for social media than laying out any serious plan for governing. Which is fine if the goal is to be an influencer. But maybe disaster is their brand now, and you can see how quickly AOC's rise started unraveling. Because when your political strategy makes Cory Booker look like the adult in the room, you know something has gone horribly wrong. And Bill Maher, ever the guy who thrives on skewering nonsense, is the one holding up the mirror, not being mean but brutally practical, seeing the iceberg dead ahead while the Democratic ship is too busy partying on the deck to
Your message
notice.
to you was, I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard. Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales.
His message is simple. Stop chasing personalities who live for retweets and TikTok clips because the voters you need aren't buying it. And it's not just about AOC's awkward relationship with facts, as the entire brand of progressive politics she represents is starting to feel like self-parody, with Maher pointing to rallies where things went completely off the rails, like when someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag and the crowd cheered as if it were the highlight of the night. And you'd think someone on stage would step up to say, maybe disrespecting the country we're trying to lead isn't the best idea, but instead there was silence. And that silence spoke volumes, with over half the country saying they're embarrassed, like America is some parent showing up at school pickup in Crocs and yelling from the car window, and here's the kicker, if you're embarrassed by America, guess what? America's embarrassed by you too, which is Maher's point, devastating in its simplicity.
Said it before, wokeness is not an extension of liberalism anymore. It's more often taking something so far that it becomes the opposite. Teaching kids not to hate or judge those who are different? Great. Proud we got there. All for that. But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. And contrary to current progressive dogma, children aren't miniature adults wise beyond their years. They're morons.
This isn't about patriotism versus criticism, as no country is perfect. But when your entire platform is built on hating the place you want to lead, good luck convincing voters you're the one to fix it, and the irony is almost painful since immigrants literally risk their lives to come here, crossing deserts and oceans for a chance at the American dream, while privileged politicians born into comfort spend their time trashing it, which is the height of entitlement, complaining about the very freedoms that allow you to complain in the first place, and then comes the capitalism rant, as AOC and her allies love to trash capitalism like it's some evil dragon keeping everyone poor, flirting with socialism as if it's a trendy new diet, forgetting that every country that tried it ended up starving. Venezuela, Cuba, the Soviet Union, each a cautionary tale. Yet AOC's crowd still insists they've cracked the code, and Maher's point is obvious. The Democrats aren't just fighting Trump, they're fighting reality, treating every Republican-touched policy idea as radioactive no matter how practical.
If the thought leaders in the Democratic Party keep encouraging and not rebuking the idea that America is cringe and the people who run Gaza are great, the Democrats are doomed. Alyssa Slotkin's right. Liberals are weak and woke, especially the white ones, and they indulge all sorts of nonsense from their kids. So talk to your children and remind them, you don't really want to live like your heroes in Hamas. All the you do all day, it was all made in America.
Border security, racism, energy independence, climate denial, tax relief, xenophobia, none of it matters if it actually helps working families, because if it comes from the other side, it's treated like a moral catastrophe, which isn't strategy, it's ideological suicide. And the deeper problem, Maher highlights his perspective, or more accurately, the total lack of it, as too many progressives treat America like the villain of history, irredeemable and forever corrupt, rolling their eyes at the flag, dismissing patriotism as bigotry, and acting like loving your country is something only rubes from the Midwest do. Following a red, white, and you mentality, knowing the difference between oppression and inconvenience, understanding why people fight tooth and nail to get here, and certainly not spending their days tweeting about how terrible it all is, and that perspective alone makes the progressive outrage machine look not just ungrateful, but embarrassingly naive. And what makes Maher's critique sting so much is that it isn't coming from the right. It's not some Fox News talking head ranting about socialism.
I mean, there is a little, I understand a little, I told you so, from the people on the border.
I mean, I'm from Texas. I actually think it's a little bit even worse than what you're saying, because not only were they saying, oh, we're sanctuary cities, we provide housing to everyone, we'll guarantee health care and education, but definitely don't come here. But they were also saying, if you're in Texas and don't want that, you're racist, you're a bad person. And now that they're having just the smallest fraction, there were 2 million border crossings last year. New York, which is by far the largest number, has 110,000.
It's Bill Maher, a guy who has spent his career mocking Republicans, calling out Trump, and championing liberal causes. So when he turns his fire on AOC and the progressive wing, it's like your favorite teacher suddenly saying, "You're the class clown, ruining the lesson," cutting deeper because it's coming from inside the house. And he's not mincing words about what's at stake, as if Democrats gamble on AOC as their 2028 ticket. They're not just risking another loss, they're lighting the match for a full-blown political inferno. Tired of watching the party play identity politics roulette, while ignoring basic issues like economic stability, public safety, and actually liking the country they want to govern. And Maher gets it, knowing voters want leaders who can balance critique with vision, not influencers chasing likes, wanting strategy, not slogans. Someone who doesn't confuse yelling with leadership, which AOC hasn't proven she is, and in fact the more she speaks, the clearer it becomes, while Maher stands there like a political lifeguard blowing the whistle as Democrats happily swim straight into a riptide, leaving us with a party teetering on the edge of another self-inflicted wound, with Bill Maher shouting from the sidelines like the only sober guy at the party.
Donald Trump would sell this country for $1 if it meant lining his own pockets and greasing the palms of his Wall Street friends. And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a 2-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way.
And instead of listening, the Democrats are too busy chasing viral clips to notice, and if history is any guide, Maher will be right again, with the left once more shocked at how they lost the most winnable election in history. Because in the end, the problem isn't just AOC, it's the ideology she represents, a worldview that confuses activism with governance, outrage with leadership, and social media applause with real political capital. And Maher is calling it out now because he's seen this movie before and knows how it ends. Badly with a sequel nobody asked for, so the choice is clear. Democrats can keep pretending AOC is the future, or they can actually listen to the guy with the torch warning them of the cliff ahead, and if they don't, then 2028 won't just be a loss, it'll be the punchline Bill Maher never stops repeating. And here's the kicker. He doesn't even have to break a sweat to make his case, just laying out the obvious while the Democratic brain trust pretends they're discovering fire by propping up AOC, making it almost too easy as he doesn't need fireworks or theatrics, merely pointing at the nonsense and saying, "Really, this is your plan?" While the party faithful clap like seals at SeaWorld, convinced this time the trick will work. But spoiler alert, it won't, because AOC has mastered the art of speaking a lot while saying absolutely nothing.
First time I think I'm getting to where Ronald Reagan was with Tip O'Neill. You know, the old story is, well, they could just hash it out and just really come at each other and then go have a beer. Well, I don't want to have a beer with AOC or
that
Joe
would
Biden.
Be the weirdest bar in the world. You think the Star Wars Cantina was weird? Imagine you walk into a bar and just Glenn Beck and AOC.
Every interview turns into a linguistic obstacle course where even AOC seems surprised by where the sentence ends. All passion and zero precision, and Maher sees it, voters see it, and anyone with more than 2 brain cells rubbing together sees it. Yet somehow the DNC thinks this is the ticket to victory, which isn't a strategy, it's a suicide pact. And if Democrats don't wise up, they'll learn the hard way that Americans might scroll for sound bites, but they vote for stability, wanting someone who doesn't treat the presidency like an open mic night, and Maher is practically begging them to stop mistaking social media applause for real momentum. Because Instagram likes don't translate into electoral votes, and if they ignore him, 2028 won't just be another embarrassing loss. It'll be a full-blown comedy of errors, the kind where the laugh track comes from Republicans watching Democrats set themselves on fire, and in the end, AOC may think she's rewriting the playbook, but Maher is the one holding up the scoreboard. And unless Democrats listen, that scoreboard is going to read another L, courtesy of the hype.